This segment brought to you by Kansas Farm Bureau, the voice of agriculture. To join today or for more information, go to kfb.org or find us on Facebook and Twitter.
Last week, I talked about some incredible women who have answered the call all over the world, who happen to be from Kansas. This week, Michelle has a great overview spanning several generations. Good morning, Michelle. So good to have you with us.
Good morning, Deb, and good morning to all our viewers. In the 1940 Hollywood classic film Santa Fe Trail, starring Olivia de Havilland and Errol Flynn, a rough and tumble Kansas immigrant remarked that Kansas is tough on women and horses. Today, I want to introduce you to Kansas women who have answered the call to help their families, their state, and their nation. From the settlement of Kansas in the 1850s to the present day, Kansas's women have answered the call to help their families, state, and nation during times of need and distress. Some of the first women to make their way to the territory in the 1850s were abolitionists, who worked hard to ensure that slavery would not prevail in the new state. Danger and hardship motivated some Kansas women. In Lawrence and Fort Scott, women learned to shoot to help send a message to Missouri border ruffians. In 1856, Mrs. Spear threw a hot pot of water on a Missourian who was searching for her husband, while other Kansas women smuggled cartridges and caps in their stockings and petticoats to avoid them being confiscated by Missourians who patrolled the trails in eastern Kansas. When Kansas men marched off to war in 1861, women on the home front once again stepped up and served their state and nation. A.J. Luther, a woman from Elwood, Kansas, served in the Union Army as a soldier. Women in towns like Fort Scott knitted mittens, made slippers, rolled bandages, and held fundraisers and created aid societies to support the war effort. After the Battle of Mine Creek, Emma Caroline Morley and the ladies of Fort Scott tended to the wounded at the military hospital in town, while Barbara Jane Dolson walked the battlefield providing aid and comfort. During World War I, Kansas women again rose to the challenge. Esther Hulse, a survivor of Quantrell's raid of 1863, eventually made her way to Cherryvale, where she organized a chapter of the Red Cross and was a member of the Women's Relief Corps that aided American doughboys. Some women came to Kansas to help as well. Brigitte Sabo from North Dakota was stationed at Fort Riley as a nurse. Emily Morgan, a Leon, Kansas native, used her nursing skills to aid American soldiers during World Wars I and II. She also served as a public health nurse in Alaska during a diphtheria outbreak in 1924 and was called the Angel of the Yukon. She eventually returned home to Kansas and continued her nursing career. The 1918 influenza epidemic that started at Camp Funston saw Kansas nurses entering the hospital wards across the state as they cared for the afflicted. Women made masks and shared with neighbors and tended to the ill. During the 1930s, Kansans faced not only the economic depression, but also drought, dust storms, and tuberculosis. Kansas Senator Arthur Capper used the womanly saintly image of Doris Gask, dressed in Red Cross robes, to drive home the message of good health in his crusade against TB. When dust storms ravaged communities in southern and western Kansas, women again played important roles in protecting their families. Women gathered together to make masks and come up with solutions to keep dust from entering their homes. With the outbreak of World War II, women once again answered the call and served their communities. Verena Zeller from Paxico in Wabaunsee County used her nursing skills in the U.S. Air Force Nursing Corps. As a second lieutenant in the Army, stationed at Fort Riley, she honed her skills for trauma care. She worked as a flight nurse and eventually was promoted to the rank of colonel. Julia Cabance, a member of the Prairie Band of Potawatomi Nation, enlisted in the Army in 1942 at the age of 33. She served stateside, and after her military service ended, she continued a life of volunteerism. Women also left their homes to work in the war industries. In Wichita, women found employment building aircraft at Boeing and Beach. In Kansas, all over, women left small towns and farms and made their way to factories to do their part for the war. Thousands of women riveted aircraft, helped build tanks, jeeps, and other materials for the war effort. Today, women across Kansas are on the front lines in the fight against COVID-19, working as doctors, nurses, first responders, grocery store stockers and cashiers, clergy and city officials. Kansas women are working hard to protect their communities. Like their ancestors in 1918 and again in the 1930s, women across Kansas are making masks for healthcare workers, family members, and friends, once again showing the strength, resilience, and ingenuity of Kansas women. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and I can't wait for you to join me on another historical adventure somewhere around Kansas.
Thank you for sharing Wednesday morning with me. I'm Deb Goodrich, and I'll see you somewhere around Kansas.
Closed captioning brought to you by Ag Promo Source. Together we grow. Learn more at agpromosource.com.
At Farm Credit, we partner with America's farmers who work hard each and every day to grow the food that we all enjoy. It's not an easy task, but it's an important one. Farm Credit is proud to work with farmers and ranchers, lending support in rural America.